He's looking over the wall at the fucking idiot. Who's that? Fucking Nitros. Oh dear, and I'm only spraying it because of the lag. Look at that. Welcome back, guys. Well, hopefully you've watched my video about the real world AS VAL and SP6 9x39. In this video, I'm just going to talk about how the AS VAL is modelled in Arma 3 RHS. Now first, a bit of background. I like the AS VAL. The concept, the uniqueness, and the fact that it's potentially a great CQB weapon, but, and it's a big but, it seems to me to have been over buffed in RHS. Now, some of you may remember the first incarnation of the VAL. It was very weak, just like the VSS, and nobody used it. You can watch my older videos with the pre-buff VSS. As you'll see, it took 2 shots to someone's head. And the VAL was the same. Now, there are lots of issues with the way Arma 3 models infantry armour, bullet penetration and damage. And it's often a delicate balancing act trying to get things to simulate the real world without breaking the mechanics of the game. You might remember the Arma 3 patch that made hand grenades into demolition charges. One frag would knock a building down. So as I understand things, when trying to make the effects in-game authentic, you're trying to avoid situations like that. It's one thing to be able to wall bang with a 9x39mm steel bullet, quite another for them to demolish the whole building. Anyway, the VAL got buffed, and again I looked into it and made a video and said at the time that I thought it had been over buffed. I got a VSS AS VAL. It's basically a fucking VSS. Oh, for fuck's sake! A VSS, but does a little bit more damage, and they've buffed it and they've broken it basically. Unfortunately, the VAL has been the same ever since. Now you can see plenty of videos with me exploiting the unrealistic performance of a heavy 9x39mm steel subsonic bullet. The VAL really suited an aggressive and highly mobile style of play that I like to use. The recoil is easily controllable, the rate of fire is high, and the damage exceptional. Add a bit of practice and you can easily drop people with a couple of rounds at 300 meters using a reflex sight. So why do another video now? Well, I was hoping the VAL would get adjusted. As you all know, I sort of took a year out from playing, and it wasn't until recently that I actually looked into the hard numbers, the damage the VAL does at range. And this was made possible by the hard work of Nico, and he created some weapon analysis sheets. This is what they look like, and you can find a link to them in the description. Anyway, this is what I found. Now that's quite amazing damage for a subsonic, but of course those figures don't mean anything until you compare them with the ones for the 7.62x54mm bullet fired from the PKM, a bullet that has more than 3 times the kinetic energy of the 9x39. So I thought, well, that's enough info to assert that in terms of Arma 3 RHS, the 9x39 SP6 needs a bit of tweaking to make it more realistic and in keeping with how other munitions are simulated in RHS. Currently it's putting out an amazing amount of damage, when in the real world it's only hitting at 300 to 400 meters with the force of a 4.5 ACP fired at point blank range. You can see here at anywhere from 300 to 500 meters the SP6 has between 575 and 500 joules of energy, whereas the PKM has over 2000 joules, dropping to 1300 at 500 meters. And you know, the 4.5 ACP doesn't go through modern military armour, and without a tungsten carbide core, neither does the SP6 at 50 meters, let alone 300. Hence, taking into account the funky broken way Arma 3 simulates damage and bullet penetration, I think the SP6 damage needs to be nerfed at anything over 100 meters to keep it authentic. I had a quick look at the parabola, and here's some shots with bullet traces to illustrate the arc as we have it. I realise the scale, perspective and parallax to take into account, and I think that doesn't help when trying to examine these traces. One minute they look right, the next minute they don't. Now, by all accounts, Arma 3 does seem to have some of the best parabola modelling of any game. It is, after all, supposed to be realistic. Whether the arc for the RHS SP5 and 6 is right, I don't know. You can see a couple of examples here for 300 and 400 meters, and both the SP5 and 6 seem to perform more or less identically as far as trajectory goes. I've also included an illustration of using a 100-meter zeroed reflex sight to show you the holdover I use. Here's a couple of cobbled together sample images, and 1 second everything looks on track and then it looks as if it's not. Anyway, I'm not convinced that the game parabola is accurate. Whether it's too high or too low, I'm not certain. I'm just not sure it's right. Now, if you have an optic and can range exactly, then perhaps landing around on target that isn't moving is doable, and you should be able to learn the rough holdover even if using a reflex sight. I'm just not sure the amount of holdover is currently correct. Now, I am not an authority on decibel ratings and sound calculations and all the rest of it, but in layman's terms, a gunshot that registers 130 decibels actually sounds twice as loud or more as one that registers 120. So it's not like, oh, it should be just a little bit quieter or a little bit louder. There's quite a big difference. My research suggests that some experts think the VSS and VAL are around 120 decibels in the real world. Now that is quite quiet. It's about what the Delisle carbine, ironically most likely the inspiration for the AS VAL, was when firing a 4.5 ACP. Here are some charts for comparison, and you can watch plenty of videos showing how quiet the Walther P22 is. Anyway, the too long didn't read info is that it's far more likely to be around 125 decibels, closer to a suppressed Glock 9mm than it is the 111 or 113 of the Ruger 1022s used by the Israeli Defence Force, which is about as loud as a 12 foot-pound air rifle or BB gun. Now, I don't think either the AS VAL or VSS are that quiet, and this sound stuff is quite complicated, but as a rule of thumb, at 120 decibels, if you're 50 yards away from the discharge point, you won't hear the gunshot. So I think probably the VAL and VSS are still a bit too quiet in RHS. Hence, in my opinion, as it currently stands, the AS VAL is incorrectly modelled in RHS. It certainly doesn't feel authentic, and ignoring any balance or gameplay desires, when you compare it to the other guns and rounds simulated, it doesn't seem right. Thus, if you're playing a competitive PvP version of Arma 3, I wouldn't give any credibility to scores accumulated with the AS VAL. It's far too quiet, it's far too powerful, and it's far too accurate. Well, that's all I've got for you. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the RHS AS VAL. Am I talking out of my derriere? Or do you agree the VAL needs work to make it more authentic in the world of Arma 3 RHS? Thanks a lot for watching, and do please leave a like. Okay, well, for those of you who stayed to the end, here's a bit of ASFL carnage to show just how absurd it really is. Wait for that. If I can get to that house, fucking hell, maybe. Like I say, it's American server, so can't really be quite as precise as I want to be, but because of the lag, so I won't fucking kill him. And of course, they've got third person, so he probably might be able to see me. Maybe not. Just gotta start popping off the shots because I'm just gonna fucking run out of ammo. There you go, I can hear them talking. That's quite comic. And this is why the VAL is fucking ridiculous. And I'm not actually doing very well, really. I missed like 3 fucking guys. People think, no, it's not at all. It's just fucking, it's all my elite skills. It's not because it's an overpowered gun. Well, that would be quite a good one, I think. If you don't find this comic, you should do. Oh, I should have killed them both. Fuck. $15. Really should have got both those fucking idiots. Yeah, but it's just a little bit too laggy for that. On the Euro server, I'd have killed them both. Pretty sure of it.